Echo 5, do you copy? Echo 5.
Echo 2, good morning. Nice of you to drop by.
Feeling alright, sir? Thought we lost you.
Right now, I feel like I can take on this whole podcast myself.
I know what you mean. Ready to send that transmission to Echo Base?
Yes, sir. R10, patch through.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Hoth Transmissions, and this week we are going to be covering the finale of Mando Season 3. And as you guys noticed, I wasn't here last week, and so I'm back. So we're going to have a very fun discussion, and yeah, so a very interesting finale. So, Fluffy, let's hear your thoughts.
I did not have as many complaints as some other people about the entire season. So I think it was a good season and even better finale. I really enjoyed the action. I really enjoyed the parallels that we've seen to other things. Yeah. So for me, though, I've probably said this before. Before season 4 news came out, for me it was the perfect finale. It was everything with like a bow on top, perfectly wrapped up. So I don't know what we will see in season 4, but this would have been enough for me. But we are getting a movie and a season 4, so we'll see what happens next.
I'm thinking that they might play a little bit, because I know at the end of this episode, he goes and sees I always forget his name. I always call him Appa because I'm so used to Kim's Convenience. Yeah, because at the end of this episode, we see Mando going to the bar and talking with Captain Teva, and he kind of mentions, it's like, oh yeah, I've got Grogu now. He's my apprentice now. So I'm gonna be more selective on the missions I do as a bounty hunter. And I know you got all these Republic things that you guys can't focus on the Outer Rim. And so I'm wondering if we're going to kind of focus more on the Outer Rim stuff, and there might be a tie into a lot of the current events that are going. So, because season 3 was supposed to be the end.
Yeah, I mean the last shot of the episode is definitely, it looks like the end.
If that's how it ended, I would have loved it. Mando's just sitting there, just chilling, watching Grogu play with the frog, which Grogu is very mean to mess with the frog if he's not going to eat it. He's just sitting there, just toying with it, like he cat plays around with the mouse. Grogu just has it in there, just floating around, spinning, and I was like, I wonder what's going through that frog's mind. And then he just drops him, and then the shot ends.
Yeah, it was a very Western-esque shot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very beautiful. I really thought it was the end because the story also tied up relatively nicely. But yeah, that's actually not the case. So we'll see what happens next.
Yeah, because like I've mentioned, like this whole season is that Mando, like season 3 was supposed to be the end of Mando's story, but because they canceled the Cars show, they are now extending. It's New Republic something. I forget what it is right now, but
Rangers something.
Rangers of the New Republic. There you go. Thank you.
Yes.
I knew we kept you around for a reason.
Between the two of us.
I'm kidding.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Wow.
I mean, I have been listening to Sam not correcting you when you say Grogu all the time, but okay, like this is strike number 2.
Which is
Sir Grogu. Sir Grogu.
Yeah,
which is
when
funny.
I say it,
I'm just doing a tally now.
I've been meaning to. Trust me, I literally titled the the episode 6 podcast, Sir Grogu. That was the name of it. And I actually wrote Sir Grogu in my notes, so I didn't forget. For some reason, it just doesn't flow off the tongue yet. So, but yeah, so I'm actually kind of excited to see what they're going to do more with it, because I really enjoyed this episode, and some parts were cheesy. It wasn't really a strong end, but I think my favorite part wasn't really the Moff Gideon and Mando scenes. It was the actual group of the Mandalorians and seeing them fight with jetpacks, and some of the moves that they did with that was just some phenomenal choreography and camera work.
Yeah, I would love to disagree with both of you on this one. I just physically can't. Like, the cinematography in this episode looked so real. Even like when, you know, you got the big spaceship crashing down. Yeah, you know, it felt so real. And when you've got Grogu using the Force to create that little bubble to protect Mando and Bo-Katan, it was just like, you know, that the way that it looked and felt real. It wasn't just this thing of like, oh yeah, you know, here's some CGI, we're gonna make it look terrible. It actually worked well.
No, that's what I really liked about this episode. Like all this CGI, all the camera work, like everything that they did to put into this episode was really well done.
Even like down to the TIE interceptors and the TIE bombers taking off. I loved. To be fair, I just have nothing bad to say about this episode. Like, even the cheesy parts I enjoyed. And compared to what we've had before, which I'm going to say while Fluffy's not here, I genuinely did not like most of this season. You know, now that we've got the finale, it just flowed so well.
I have to say, I do like being wrong on this account, because when I didn't get to join you guys for the last episode, but it was titled Spies, and they introduced those 2 Mandalorians on the skiff. I totally thought they were going to be on Gideon's side. The armor I've always been suspicious of since season 1. I've just been waiting for her to turn into the villain, and none of them turned into villains, and they actually worked very well as kind of tie-ins to the different groups, because now we got Bo-Katan's people, and then we got the Purge people that survived, and then we have the cult. And so it was really cool to be able to see how they all work together and really pull off something that seemed so impossible, because you got these new stormtroopers with Beskar armor, which they look a lot cooler than the First Order stormtroopers. Just saying.
Definitely.
I do like the look of the First Order stormtroopers, but I think this was a little bit more creative as far as like the design, because it's a little bit more Mandalorian style. And
this was the first time I thought they were actually a threat, because usually when you see stormtroopers, the only threat is in their numbers. But this time I was like, okay, this is an elite troop of soldiers. Are they? No, but still.
Well, I mean, their armor is actually effective this time. Like, I still don't understand the point of original stormtrooper armor, because they get hit with a blaster, it does nothing to protect them. It's just for them to kind of look cool. This armor actually served a purpose, and so it made them a little bit more intimidating, a little bit more threatening than your standard stormtrooper. Which is why I think the Mandalorians struggled so much against them, is because you got to find the weak point or hit them really hard.
Or use a knife. That works.
That is true.
I mean,
that is true.
I just want to throw this out there that I loved that part. You know, any use of a knife in this episode to beat stormtroopers just shows how what's the word, but it shows how fluid Mandalorians are with their actions. Guns don't work. We have knives. Knives
They're
work.
versatile.
Yeah.
Or flamethrowers. Oh, okay, we can't get you through your armor. We're just gonna burn. We're just gonna make your armor so hot that you just die and you get roasted inside. Like the use, like you said, like the use of their weapons. It wasn't like when you see a Jedi, it's their lightsaber and the Force.
Yeah.
With the Mandalorians, it's like, or any other character, it's like, oh, it's a gunfight. But this one really put in a lot of effort and choreography into the close quarter combat. And especially with the scene with Mando, like he got captured, and not sure why they didn't kill him. The villains, they always see a purpose of what they have with their prisoner. Like Bad Batch season 3. Bad Batch, I would have just killed them instead of capturing him.
I cannot talk about the Bad Batch season 3, but you know, the villain's monologue. It has to happen. Otherwise, so many
And
great
there's
moments in cinema history would not have happened.
And there's the plot armor. I mean, I actually thought Mando was going to be killed. And because I heard this was going to be the finale, and I was like, okay, that'd be fitting. See Mando die, and then it's the rise of the Mandalorians. But we got paused in the last episode that did the Boromir thing. And yeah, you guys didn't see it. Sam did the cross. RIP. Respect his soul. But they kept him alive, and it's always the villain's worst mistake is the guy that's always thwarting you. You guys end up just keeping him alive, and I was like, okay, I get it. It's cool. I don't want it. I'd be very devastated if Din Djarin died. So I'm glad that it turned out this way. But I did put a note down. First time Mando this season has actually got himself out of something. He didn't. I mean, with a little help from Grogu, but I mean, that's a little different. He was
toast. If Grogu was not there, he was toast.
Mando did most of the work though. With his hands being tied, like the choreography in that fight, him fighting two people, and being able to redirect the guy's flamethrower. Yes, he was ultimately going to lose, but I think that he probably would have found another way to survive. Mando's not one that's just going to lay back in. Grogu just happened to be there and made it a lot easier for him to win. And I do have to say, Sir Grogu, this episode, super adorable. I corrected myself on that one, Sam.
I was just about to say, but no, Sir Grogu, saving Mando just by and saying no. It was adorable, and it had a purpose because Mando kind of saved Grogu. He saved his life, his whole being, multiple times, and now it's Sir Grogu's time to be an adult, not just a child or a foundling. He's mentally, he shows he's growing up, and to see that throughout this
the Omega effect.
Yeah, which I hate that analogy, but I love it at the same time.
I mean, I have to also agree with the storytelling here that I think Mando dying or something really bad happening to him would not have been good for storytelling purposes because we would have gotten the story of the orphan then like 3 times in a row. So I think we can spare us.
That is also true.
Especially in the first 5 minutes of the episode as well.
Yeah,
that is true. But I do like that Sir Grogu came to save him because, like you said, like it's kind of that they have each other's back, and that's how it's going to continue to be. They're now a team, and it was very fitting that Sir Grogu was there to pull him out of it. It's like, okay, things may be done, but I'm not going to let you die. Like I'm going to be here, even if it's in this IG-11 mechanical thing, which came in handy.
just their team, their family now. They are different than whatever we have seen so far.
I mean, that is true, and it kind of foreshadowed their team up later, which was really cool. Also, I gotta say, how cool is it that Mando got the jetpack, but I actually don't remember him using it much in this episode. He just put it on. I don't remember actually seeing him use it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I don't think he did. If he did use it, it would have been at brief intervals, but nothing
like the rest of the team.
Yeah, it's not like Axe flying up to the ship using the jetpack,
which I thought was really cool. Because I think I put in my notes, I'm like, the Mandalorians are actually the coolest characters in Star Wars based off of this episode. Just because it's the jetpack. It's just really the jetpack that make them cool, plus their fighting style. But I do know I said in one of the last episodes that Mando seemed very clunky and slow in his armor when he's fighting. This episode, he was actually a lot quicker and didn't seem like he was being held back by the weight of his armor. He actually seemed very fluid this time.
Yeah, we had that beginning, that beginning of the fluid movements in the last episode, where he'd be sort of jumping over rocks and just drop kicking stormtroopers. And, so this is, again, I'm not sure why there is such a difference in this season between his movements, but these last two episodes really showed how accustomed he's become to wearing the different armor, and and sort of, again, it's that he's grown up as well thing, and his movements are more fluid, and I kind of think that's down to Bo Katan. She's kind of subconsciously trained him.
And he's probably just watching her and kind of like they're learning from each other. And
I was just going to say that there is a significant amount of more Mandalorian in his vicinity right now, and it's not from the same background as his. So, being a good fighter, he should have taken some notes on how to move.
Which I'd be very depressed if he didn't have any growth in that respect. It's like seeing Sokka from The Last Airbender. Like, he doesn't have any special abilities, but all he can do is fight. And so each season, he's learning different styles that make him a lot better in the end.
Exactly.
And that's kind of how Mando is. It's like he's a good fighter, but he learned from the Colt. Now he's learning from Bo. Now he's learning from all these other warriors around him, and he's becoming better because of it. So There we go. We got a Last Airbender reference.
Finally, the circle is complete. My job here is done. Everything of fandom I love has been mentioned.
Hey, we're nerds. We got to tie everything together. The story is great because Dave Filoni actually worked on The Last Airbender, and so it's very. So it wouldn't be surprising if he took some of those character arcs and kind of implemented them here. Because it's really cool to see him fight. Like, this whole shield barrier thing, that kind of reminded me of the Phantom Menace. I don't know if you guys got Phantom Menace pills on that one, but he used R5 to kind of block the shield barriers, and it's like, okay, turn them off one at a time, and him and Grogu just take out both of the two stormtroopers. Then he's like, okay, these ones are down. All right, bring down the next barrier. And I thought that whole fight sequence was actually really, really cool.
Yeah, cool fight sequence. Didn't get a feel for the Phantom Menace, but I know what you're referring to, because obviously it's a big.
Just the barriers.
Yeah.
Just the barriers. That's it. Not like the actual intensity or suspense behind it. Just the barriers.
But the fight scene. I mean, the bit where Mando stabs the trooper, tries to get the knife, and it falls down the crevice still in the guy, and he's just missed it by like that much. And the fact he was using, he used a shield. I got more like Captain America vibes from it.
Yeah, I could see that too.
But like the first Captain America, so the first Avenger movie, where it's like getting used to using a shield and different things,
Tools.
Yeah, because it wasn't just the shield he was using. The staffs he was using, different blasters. It was all new equipment to him, but he was adapting to use it. I love that whole bridge. I guess it is kind of like a bridge thing, isn't it? So I just love that entire scene.
Yeah, usually
We have to think about it. Sorry.
Nope, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say we should also think about the fact that when we got to know Mando, he was basically a bounty hunter that was completely alone, that was part of just a sect, and it was a sect that was basically hiding in the sewers of a planet and trying to just scrape by with very limited equipment, and it was just everything was gained piece by piece. So the fact that right now I'm sure Bo-Katan and the rest of the Mandalorian fighters are providing everyone with an entire armory worth of weapons and equipment and so on. So I think the fact that they did not give us Mando in its full potential, but built up to it in the 3 seasons that we've seen, I think that's also very important to think of, especially when we think that this episode was designed as the pinnacle of the Mandalorian that we love.
No, I completely agree, because if you give a character that's fully developed at the very start, then you're not really getting any growth from that character, unless you're going in more like a mental perspective. And him being a bounty hunter, he's good at what he did, but he is not used to fighting a war, which is completely different. He's usually just going after civilians or gangsters or anything but this is a little bit different. He's going after soldiers and fighting along with the team. Because the Mandalorians, which I actually thought cool, there's so few of them, but I think they were supposed to be based off of the Spartans. And so they're able, so I'm thinking the movie 300. You got 300 soldiers against a Persian army. And here it's kind of the same. You got the small amount of Mandalorians going against this big battalion that Moff Gideon has been hiding in secret. Not only just are they battalion, they're special armor too. And so everything that they did to kind of interact and kind of tie everything together, I thought was really well done, especially with the axe flying straight to space into a ship. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, and I mean that shows character growth for Axe as well, because he's the first thing he says is everybody needs to get out because Bo-Katan needs help. And I was like, a few episodes ago, you was willing to kill her to try and become the leader. Now you're going, you flew up into space just to tell everybody to get out. It's an interesting character growth as well, because it's one that you wouldn't necessarily think of, especially with the last episode where Axe and
Paz
had the little brawl on the land ship.
I quite liked his character arc in this too, because when they first introduced him and I forgot the girl's name in season 2, and now they bring him this, and he's challenging Bo, and then now he's challenging Paz, and now here he is getting his people off a ship and saying, "Get out of here before they get here. I'm going to stay on the ship and play a decoy." And he very much played the captain because he's like, the captain will go down with the ship, but he didn't, which I was glad. I'm glad he didn't die on the ship. I thought it was really cool how he just blasted the window and just flew straight out of it before it crashed. I thought that was really, really cool. Because, I mean, literally, like, captains of, like, real life ships, they can't actually do that. So it's really cool that here it's like, okay, he's going down with the ship, but he's not going to die with it.
Yeah. It was an interesting character for it.
Yeah, I was thinking something completely different in that context because I do not think any of the things Axe does is out of the goodness of his heart. I think this is just, I see the Mandalorian people, the people of Mandalore, as basically a militaristic nation. And he tried to fight for power, he lost. So nothing else than to take orders or just go and be alone. And he tried to then become the second in command. But I mean, of course, it was very obvious from Bo-Katan and Din Djarin's relationship that that was not going to happen. And the third was Paz versus Axe, so that was another power struggle, and it was going to reach somewhere if Grogu did not interfere. Sir Grogu, I'm very sorry, and did not interfere. And I think it's just taking orders, and it's for me it's basically how an army would function. I do not, and it's, he does not go down with the ship. Yes, we see a moment there, but I see none of this as like he turned out to be such a good character and out of the good, like I don't see that. He was just a good soldier.
Good soldiers follow orders.
At least this is my point of view on his character.
I mean, I could see that, but I guess the way that more that I'm thinking about it is that he does put his people first, though, as a leader would, because I see him like more like a military commander. Like he'll do what he can to make sure that his people aren't going to die, and he's not going to put himself before them. And so maybe it wasn't really much of a character development. We just got to see more of his character as a military leader, and that he's not this complete bad guy. That he is a good leader, but he's not the leader.
I mean, he's not a bad guy. He's just a guy.
You just said he's not. He didn't do anything good. That's all I heard. I'm kidding. I'm messing with you at this point.
No.
But I do like your perspective on it because I believe I think we're kind of like overthinking it just because we don't see Axe too much, and so your perspective kind of changes how I saw that as well now, because you are right. He's acting more as a military man or a soldier rather than I'll save you guys and I'll sacrifice myself just because I'm a good person. It's like, no, I'm doing this because that's what a leader would do. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I don't think that we've had enough of his character to say, I mean, I'm still going to stick on the side of it was character growth just because of everything that we've seen previously. But at the same time,
I'd probably argue say more character development than growth.
Yeah, that's a fair point, and I completely agree with what Fluffy's saying that it is a militaristic society, and he is just doing really what he should be doing. It's just from my point of view that we've had the fights that he's been in, that he's tried to start and got his backside handed to him epically every time, even by Sir Grogu. So I think to see the character development then from Guy wanting to take over to Guy willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good of his people. Yeah,
I mean, that's a perspective. Of course, you can look at it from there. For me, there was no way he could survive alone. No way. He needed a way out.
Yeah. Very interesting. It wasn't expecting that much of a conversation on this character, but that's really cool. I like the perspectives that are being thrown out here. But I mean, it still was a cool. I think more or less is I just really enjoyed getting to see more of his character and getting to really know his character rather than just a few snippets that we've seen and he's always fighting. It's like, okay, there is another side to him, and it's giving a lot more development for this character so we know who this character is.
Yeah, and my final thought on this is I am just glad he didn't die in the ship, because we had the self-sacrifice of Paz in the last episode. To have that again,
Redundant.
Yeah,
It wouldn't hit as hard, especially since we've had more time with Paz than we have with Axe. Paz was a little bit more meaningful, and Axe would have been like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, so to see him, fire the little rocket out of his wrist armor to smash the window and then fly out of that as the ship was coming
very
down.
smoothly, by the way.
Yeah, I was just like, you know what, that is actually awesome. Like, I could not fault how that scene looked.
No, like I said, like everything, the way that everything was like choreographed and shot this episode. I know a lot of people have a lot of complaints about the episode in general, but I think all the visuals were pretty on point. And especially with the jetpack fight scene, like especially watching the armor fly around with their little hammer. I just thought that was really cool. And then the way Bo-Katan kind of like, the move that really impressed me that she did was she went towards the platform, turned off her jetpack, slid, went off the other side, dropped, and put her jetpack back on and started shooting. I was like, the amount of consciousness that she has over her jetpack and how she knows how to use it properly was really impressive.
She has decades of experience using that thing. So, I mean, as I said this a million times before, I can watch Bo-Katan do hand-to-hand combat for hours. It could be its own thing, and I would watch it. It's just magnificent. And
that's why
fantastic.
That's why I'm saying like she was a really good addition to the show. I know we lost Cara Dune, but I think Bo-Katan was a better choice considering she is Mandalorian. And I thought she was just going to be a whole cameo thing, but then she became one of the main characters. And I think that's kind of like one of the things that I was saying before is like, okay, if we had Bo-Katan from the start and she was the focus, her character arc would be what it is now, trying to reclaim Mandalore, because she's already skilled and at her peak.
Yeah.
Because if Mando started off with the skill that she had, it would look cool, but I mean, I like character growth.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the same. It would just be, it'll sort of be like that either superhero or action movie trope that, yeah, you're now this is a new character, but they already know everything that they need to know. They're already super advanced, and it's like, nah, come on. Like, realistically, seeing Mando's growth in this compared to Bo-Katan's growth, which we've seen from sort of the Clone Wars era, that's the right way to do it, and I wouldn't have changed anything about that.
Yeah, because Sir Grogu was the the change for Mando.
Yeah. More Bo-Katan, Grogu being Sir Grogu being the growth and the change. As Fluffy's now correcting me for saying Grogu first.
So, what do you guys think of Moff Gideon's agenda here? Because I kept thinking, okay, they're going after Sir Grogu for the longest time, obviously for cloning, and I thought it had something to do with Project Necromancer. However, it's not the Project Necromancer we were thinking. And Moff Gideon had some selfish agenda, because we even saw it in the Shadow Council, where he's like, okay, well, if Thrawn doesn't return, somebody's got to be in charge. And you see that he's not looking at the whole team. He just kind of out for himself at this point. And so we see that with his clones, and a little twist to it, which I'm not sure I like this idea of them being Force sensitive.
I enjoyed that twist, if I'm honest, because as Moff Gideon said, that's the one thing that he's lacking, and he wants it. He's a man of action, and if he can get it, he's going to. So what's the next best thing? Having an army that looks like yourself, but that is Force sensitive. And that would then, in theory, make you unstoppable. And maybe in his mind, it would have made him more powerful than the Emperor.
That is a possibility, because he'd go down the dark side route anyways. I mean, he's already technically dark side. If he had the Force, he would be a Sith at this point.
I enjoyed the plot twist with the Force sensitivity as well. Basically, the exact same reasoning. I think Gideon thought he could be the Emperor, but even better. And I think that's why he also has a different approach to stormtroopers, because I don't think, even if he was Force sensitive, he would ever raise or have an apprentice, because that was basically the downfall of the Emperor. So I think he would do the ultimate power move. He might have even had his own clones as his I mean, group of
I was gonna say the same thing.
soldiers, because he wouldn't trust anyone else than himself, because that's what that is basically the mistake the Emperor did. At one point, he became so full of himself, so arrogant, that he thought even bringing his own son to Darth Vader would not cause him to change his mind or question his loyalty. So I think it was building up to a great place. I mean, great that it did not work, but if it did, it would have been an incredible villain's story as well.
He gave me Starkiller vibes. If you guys played Force Unleashed 2.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting, because I know before Lucas sold Disney, and before we even got the prequels, everybody says this is leaked. I don't believe this is what George. I've heard what George intended for 7, 8, 9, but prior, I forget who put it out, but it was a script that was put out online, and it was basically the plot for the next sequels was someone recovered Luke's hand, took the DNA out of it, created a Force-sensitive clone army of Luke Skywalkers that were dark side. And so that's kind of what this reminded me a little bit of. It was like just a nod to that, like, what's up?
I just laughed out loud because I found it so outrageous. I'm so sorry.
That's what I said. That's what I thought too, and a lot of the fans at the time. But I mean, this was like the beginnings of the internet, and people were able to be fooled by a lot of this stuff. And I never fell for it. I read it, and I thought it was kind of an interesting concept. But I was like, nah, this is definitely Lucas would have done something. I'm like, because he said he would never do 7, 8, and 9, but there's 3 scripts that are fully written that was released online. I'm like, if he had no intention of doing it, those would not have been written. So I wasn't fooled. It was very interesting to look at, but that's also what kind of reminded me. So
Can you imagine the outrage? We got 3 seasons of Mandalorian with a lot of build up to this kind of comeback, and there was the Emperor again, and all of this. I mean, some of the questions with the sequels were at least partially answered through all of this media. Can you imagine out of nowhere George Lucas making an entire sequel trilogy based on Luke's hand? That is I cannot.
and I think that's why the lightsaber was recovered rather than the hand. I think it was just like, okay, forget the hand. Let's recover the lightsaber, because the lightsaber has a little bit more weight and meaning and can be a better story. Just as simple, even though I still want to know how Maz found it, because in Force Awakens, I never got the story. It's like, oh, how'd you get this? Oh, that's a story for another time. Okay, well, I haven't heard the story yet.
See, I like the mystery of not knowing where the hand, not the hand, where the lightsaber came from, because like if we knew all
Obviously,
the answers,
Bespin, or
yeah, because it would have fallen through the atmosphere and all sciencey technobabble, but not knowing the specifics of it kind of makes me happy knowing that, because there is more intrigue. And if they go back and tell the story, yeah, that's fine, but you can also make it up in your own head at the same time.
yeah, because I was just thinking, I'm like, what they could have done, which I think would be a very interesting story, and it'd be very on point with Anakin Skywalker, because he fought Luke, saw the lightsaber. Obviously, he's like, okay, Obi-Wan grabbed it. I mean, he saw Obi-Wan pick it up and take it, and he cut off Luke's hand, and he's like, okay, that's my lightsaber. So I think it would be kind of cool. Vader's the one that went and got it, and during the fall of the Empire, Maz somehow got it. I think that'd be very poetic if Vader's the one that took it, and then it just became an artifact.
See, I think you just came up with the greatest explanation that could be. And that's and when we don't have the answers to these questions, because yeah, we want answers. That's also who we are. But when we don't, there is the suspension of belief as well, which makes it a bit more magical because you can just work your imagination. I will forever accept your theory. Yes, it was Darth Vader who recovered it, and that's how it happened, because it sounds so much better than probably what an official person will come up with.
What canon? Because I mean, if you look at Clone Wars, like Vader went back to where Ahsoka was and found her lightsabers.
Yeah.
So for me, I just think Vader is very attached to the past, because most of his arc, especially after he becomes part of the Empire, is trying to find ways to bring Padme back. And it isn't until he sees Luke and learns about Leia that he stops looking at the past and starts seeing a future.
Character redemption.
Redefining. Sam and I were talking in the podcast, like I think it was with the finale of Bad Batch season 3, and we were talking about character redefining and redemption, and Sam was like, somewhere Fluffy is hearing this through the Force.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's got an opinion.
But no, I mean,
No.
if you do sort of think about that, and if George Lucas did 7, 8, and 9 himself, we probably wouldn't have Mandalorian or Ahsoka or anything else that we've got. And I mean, it's an interesting sort of what if, but at the same time, maybe, if we skip most of this season and just have these last 2 episodes, I've not got a problem with that.
Now that you've said what if, all I can think about is what if Star Wars.
We have to
A lot of people want it, and we're getting it in a Lego form in September.
Yes.
Because we get to see Darth Jar Jar stealing the Millennium
Yeah.
Falcon and stuff like that. So I'm very curious. It's going to be goofy, obviously. But I would love to see in what
Lego.
if series like Marvel.
Because
That'd be really cool. So you get to obviously see Gideon's clones and the little twist a little bit differently than I did on that one. It is cool, but at the same time, maybe I just don't know how to feel about it yet, because maybe I need to see it in action. Because like this whole episode was, maybe it just felt like it came out of left field. That's a baseball reference. I keep forgetting you guys are European, so I don't know how familiar you guys are with baseball. But
0.
don't know how to reference any other sport then. But for everybody else, came out of left field for me. Like, just came out of nowhere. It was very random.
I mean,
but it also explains. Yeah, and it kind of, because that's been the question since season 1. Why do they need Sir Grogu? Like, why is he so important? And maybe it's kind of like the whole thing is like, can't say Bad Batch stuff because I don't want to spoil Fluffy, but it's basically
fine.
Omega was very key to the cloning of Project Necromancer. Although she wasn't force sensitive herself, they're trying to perfect a clone that could be. And this was done way before The Mandalorian. And they lose all that research, so they're trying to start over. And so I guess it kind of makes sense that Moff Gideon's very power hungry at this point. So why wouldn't he have force sensitive clones?
Yeah. And, the fact that we got the Project Necromancer wording in season 1 was, and then it was built up on to then see the clones that isn't the Emperor, because obviously by this point we know that we know the Emperor clones himself, and they're a bit failing. So when you say Project Necromancer, you automatically think that it's going to be for the Emperor, and that's what I liked was as Sir Grogu and Mando were walking past the clone tanks, you could kind of,
and Sir Grogu got scared.
Yeah, but you could make out the figures that were in them. It wasn't until you got the up close that it was like, okay, it's not the Emperor. And I, for one, really did enjoy that twist because it wasn't what I was expecting.
Dude, imagine how chilling it would be if it was the Emperor in there.
Yeah.
I do like where they went with it. It would be very chilling and kind of creepy. It's like, oh, it's the Emperor. But at the same time, I do like that it wasn't.
Yeah, definitely. I think if it was the Emperor, it would have really ruined the rest of the episode, because the whole point of Moff Gideon and Mando fighting was because he murdered can you murder clones? I guess it would be. Yeah, so Mando basically blew up the cloning tanks.
I wouldn't say murder, I'd just say killed.
Yeah, I mean,
it was for a necessary reason.
Yeah,
I mean, killing is killing, but
yeah. So for me, it was that necessary twist that it was definitely needed, and I think it paid off really well. I mean, there was that one cheesy bit where the clone opened its eyes and scared Sir Grogu. But again, it kind of then showed that these clones are going to be ready imminently. And it kind of puts the doubt in your mind as to which Moff Gideon we're actually up against at the moment. Is it a clone?
That was
Is it
the other
real-
thing. That is a fan theory and speculation at this point. I forgot to put that in my notes because I thought about that last time. I'm glad you're saying it here.
Yeah. I mean, I'm of the belief that, again, sort of until proven otherwise, that this is the original Moff Gideon.
The reason why I agree with you saying that is because Moff Gideon is the villain of all 3 seasons, right?
Yeah.
And you can kind of think of like these 3 seasons as a trilogy. So you came to your climax and your perfect ending. And he even said, those were my clones. They had something that I don't have, because that would be implying that he has that if he was a clone, he would have used the Force, obviously, there.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, he said, you destroyed them before they even had their first breath. Meaning, I saw that as kind of like the first batch of his clones.
Yeah.
So I think you're right that until proven otherwise, that wasn't a clone that Mando killed.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it is.
Well, not necessarily Mando killed. It was kind of more Axe that killed him, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean the big fiery spaceship of death falling down. You know, I mean, take your pick. But no, I mean, I'm just hoping that in the movie, because obviously this was meant to be the final season of Mando. We've already said that, and I think that would have been the perfect way to end the Moff Gideon character as a whole. If he comes back in either the movie or season 4, I think that would be
too much.
Yeah, because he's had his death scene. You know, there's only so many times we can play it out again and again and again before we're just like, all right, what is the point?
And I'm sorry, this is just a gamer nerd in me. I play with my friends all the time, and I just know like Fortnite and stuff. Like I'm doing all this damage to an enemy, and then my friend comes in and shoots him and gets the final kill. I was just thinking the same thing. Bo and Mando are doing all this damage, and then just Axe with the ship coming down to do the final blow. I'd be like, sorry, gamer nerd. Axe stole their kill.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was a good kill steal.
It really was.
moment.
Like Axe is not really doing much. I mean, he's doing a lot actually, but it was supposed to be like Mando and Bo-Katan having the final kill, and it's actually Axe and him throwing the ship down onto the planet that actually got the death. But I mean, I agree totally with what you're saying, Sam, because like they're building on with Thrawn now, and Moff Gideon was the villain of the first 3 seasons, the first trilogy, and now there's really no point to go further with the character because he's already, I think, developed as much as he could have, and I don't think there's really much more we can explore with Moff Gideon. And with the Mandalorian and Sir Grogu movie coming out, and then season 4, then we got Ahsoka season 2. They're building it up as we call it the Mandoverse, and with everything that's going on and developing now, Moff Gideon is of the past. Now we're ready for the next threat. Someone who's more powerful and more cunning.
Yeah. So I think, you know, firstly, I'm going to say that the parallels of the ship crashing down to Mandalore, you know, I love the parallels to that and the ending of the Clone Wars, where, you know, you've got the Venator class crashing down.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, I'm all to, you know, I love it when sci-fi ships crash down to a planet and very few people actually get killed in them, because that again is a sci-fi trope that happens a lot. But seeing this, it just brought back that memory of Ahsoka and Rex frantically trying to get off of the ship, in the final episode of the Clone Wars, and then for it to go through. I think it was a bit of a strategic positioning, going straight through the crevice that they needed to get out of. That was a bit ropey for me, but at the same time, just the visuals of it, it can, plot armor aside, again, amazing scene. You've got then Grogu that basically saves Mando.
Sir Grogu.
Sir Grogu. Sir Grogu doing the knightly thing of saving his subjects. Because you've got Mando there that sort of puts his arm over Sir Grogu, to try and save him. You've got Bo-Katan using the little shield on her wrist, which against a fireball would do next to nothing. But you've got Sir Grogu there using the Force to protect to protect the others, and I love that moment. You've got to see Moff Gideon going up in flames.
Yeah.
Well, they never saw a body. Actually, that
we haven't seen Tech's yet.
Yeah,
we haven't seen Tech's body. So,
just on that, what did you guys think to the mechanized armor that Moff Gideon was wearing?
I loved it. I thought it was really cool.
I love the sound of it.
I think it's very Star Warsy, and I think that's all I'll say right now, because Fluffy's been very quiet, so I want to hear what she's going to say.
Oh, I have gathered all of my thoughts. No, I was thinking the same thing about the armor. I think it also showed me that he idolized Darth Vader much more than the Emperor himself. I think that's why he also was very, I think he thought Darth Vader made no mistakes, basically, when it came to how things played out, but the Emperor did a lot. That's why I think he modeled himself after Darth Vader much more than the Emperor as well. The scene with the Force shield, basically, it's just Kanan and how he saved the crew of the Ghost. It was for me, it was a goosebumps moment. I was so very happy to see that, and I hope, as you guys said, Moff Gideon does not come back. I think his story is over. There is a chance, of course. I mean, we thought the Emperor's story was over too, but it wasn't. There is a chance. I hope not. I would like to, because the Ahsoka big bad, and I would like the Mandalorian crew go in that direction as well, or maybe even something else, but I don't think so. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we will get an Ahsoka movie, so I
I would
think
love one.
Sorry?
I said I would love an Ahsoka movie.
I would give.
I already know Fluffy's answer on that one.
I wouldn't want an Ahsoka movie.
Yeah, of course, because why would you?
Yeah.
Because I would rather have more seasons of Ahsoka. Why limit it to 2 hours?
I'm just going to say this is really funny.
Give me as much Ahsoka as possible.
I'm just going to say this is really funny. Sam is more of the dark side person, but he just turned on a light. Fluffy is more light side, but she's sitting in darkness. Just saying. You guys are representing the wrong side.
I'm redeemed.
And I am much more closer to the dark side after hearing Sam talk about this stuff.
That is fair. That is fair. And I'm going to correct myself on the whole Moff Gideon clone force thing because I forgot about a game I played, and everybody on the podcast that listens to it knows how much I revere the Dark Forces series and Kyle Katarn. So, with that being said, in Jedi Outcast, there is actually a Shadow Trooper that they have armor that deflects lightsabers and were actually kind of force sensitive. And I believe they were clones. So I retract my statement. It's been done, so I forgot that they actually made it work, and I could see them making it work if they went the same route. They weren't powerful in the Force, but they were able to. It's kind of, I put it kind of this way, like the Royal Guards. Now that I even think about it, Palpatine's Royal Guards, they were Force sensitive as well, and that's why he kept them as his guards, because I don't know if they were Jedi or Force sensitive beings or if they're just clones that he created. But I remember he did keep Force sensitive clones or Force sensitive guards around him in case there was a Jedi that was going to challenge him. He'd at least have other people. Kind of like how Moff Gideon, like when he's fighting Mando, and then all of a sudden the Praetorian Guard has just come out of nowhere. I liked their entrance, but at the same time, it seemed random. It's like, why were you guys just hiding over there to begin with? And wait till now to come out.
Yeah, it was definitely a random moment. Don't get me wrong. I loved the random moment. You know, the fact that the Praetorian Guards took Grogu, you know, they kind of carried him away, and
not really. Grogu just walked away, and the way that they ran and chased him, and then the door shut behind him, I thought was super cheesy. Trust me, I love seeing the Praetorian Guards, and I think they look a lot cooler here than they did in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But I still found that whole thing cheesy.
It was super cheesy. You could sort of see what was happening, but I mean, I remember the first time I watched this, and I was like, okay, so what, you know, is Grogu gonna come out of this alive? Is he gonna turn all like Super Saiyan on them? And so you see Grogu going off, and the Praetorian Guards, you know,
Sir Grogu,
following him. Sorry, Sir Grogu, and the door closes. That for me on the first watch was the first time in this whole season that I thought, okay, we're going to lose an actual main character. It was either going to be that, or we would have got a super powered Sir Grogu, like, you know, throwing like Darth Vader style in Rogue One, where he's throwing people around. Luckily,
The Force Awakens.
Yeah. So, but you know, we never got that. We got really the best play out that Mando's having his butt kicked, almost quite literally. But then you've got Bo-Katan just coming in and again, you know, sort of drop kicking Moff Gideon, and the way that she turns round to Mando and says, "Go save the kid." It's like Bo-Katan firstly, you know, total badass again in this episode. Like, I cannot fault.
Oh yeah.
Her you know, her motives in this and the way that she moves. When we see the
Hollywood, pay attention to this. This is how you develop a strong female character without forcing it and making it seem cheesy.
Yeah.
Learn from Star Wars. All their characters are brilliant.
Precisely.
But you know, I don't complain about any Star Wars female lead, maybe except Rey, but that's just because Rey never had a real character arc. But these characters here, that's how you do it. Just saying.
You know, we see we get the door open. Grogu in his IG suit that's now being dismantled very quickly. You know, we see that. We see Grogu sort of jumping along.
Sir Grogu.
Sorry, Sir Grogu jumping along the. What was that thing that he was on? Actually, I called
it either railings or rafters.
Yeah, it's kind of like a railing that's just randomly there. It's plot.
I wouldn't say
armor.
rafters because it's not high up and it's not a support for the ceiling. So I'd say it's more like a railing. I wrote
Yeah.
rafters just because that was the word that came to mind, but railing seems more adequate.
So yeah, you've got Grogu, Sir Grogu. God, we've got Sir Grogu jumping on the railings that's hanging down from the ceiling,
which I thought was cheesy. Hate me.
It was cheesy, but at the same time,
he's a kid. That's what he'd probably be doing, playing with them.
Yeah. He was kind of toying with them because you could hear it in the sort of noises that Sir Grogu was making. It wasn't just
like he was laughing.
Yeah. I'm glad that it wasn't just me that picked up on that, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got Mando coming in, and he's there. There's times when he's got the upper hand. There's times when he's losing, and
this whole season.
Yeah, and then the combination of Mando and Sir Grogu working together again, becoming that family unit more so, paid off. We had Bo-Katan fighting Moff Gideon and the Darksaber. R.I.P.
Yeah,
Yep.
But jump back on to before we get into the Darksaber because I'm very curious of what you guys are thinking on that. But that's what I was talking about earlier when Grogu saved Mando in the first place. Now they switch roles. Mando's coming in to save him.
Yeah.
But Mando is taking out these 3 guards that has died to. And Mando's doing pretty good. But there's moments where he doesn't see something. And like when the Praetorian Guard slams down with the staff, Grogu just grabs it with the Force, kind of bringing us back to the first season against that one animal, where Grogu just picked up the animal and then that became Mando's crest.
Yeah.
So it comes around full circle. Now it's not Grogu just sitting back and going, "Oh, look what I can do." It's like, okay, I'm watching your back. I'm not strong enough to fight these guys by myself, but I'm not going to let you die either because we're a team. And so Mando lacks the Force, and that's kind of where Gideon lacks, because Gideon's like, oh, the one thing I don't have is Force. Mando doesn't have the Force either, but he has Sir Grogu. And that's where they work well as a team.
It's become synergy.
Yeah, that's perfect word for it. Because Mando was able to take them down with Sir Grogu's help.
I cannot wait for the day we stop saying Sir Grogu.
It might be at the end of the season. It might be Din Grogu from here on out. Considering.
Oh, I'm hoping. Jokes aside. Yeah, I think this is a very good story of the I think this is a okay, how do I put this? I think this is basically the Mandalorian and Sir Grogu is what if
She said it.
universe of Phantom Menace, the apprentice to a master relationship that Qui-Gon and Anakin could have had, embodied in the Mandalorian and Grogu.
I could not say it better than that.
Yeah.
Because I think in even season 2, we see Mando killing and Grogu's just kind of watching him. I'm like, oh, he's teaching him bad habits. But at the same time, Din Djarin isn't a bad person or bad character. He's just doing what he needs to do to survive. And he doesn't kill just to kill. And so he's kind of teaching Grogu these things. It's like, okay, just because you kill someone doesn't make you bad. It's more of surviving. And Mando doesn't kill just to kill either. Like, he'll try and save them or bring them in alive as best he can. And
yeah,
I like your analogy. That's cool.
There's no joy in the killing that he does. It's just pure survival, and
No
he
bloodlust.
always tries his best to bring the person in with the least violent method possible. sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but then he finds
Like Praetorian
this.
Guards, for instance.
Exactly. By the way, I forgot to chime in there. I think the reason why we got the Praetorian Guards coming so weirdly again is because that visual has been utilized twice before, and it was very good. And so they said like, okay, so this is the entrance of the Praetorian Guard. That's the only explanation I can come up with, because that's like slow motion coming out of all
Yeah,
corners of the screen. It's been done in the
The
sequel
Last Jedi.
trilogy
Yeah,
and
maybe that's
the previous episode, so I think that's why.
maybe
But
that's
yeah,
just their style, and maybe
mhm.
that's why I found it cheesy is because of the slow. I think if it was normal paced, I think it probably would have looked fine.
I think it's very like camp. It's so
Hmm.
out of like the whole the armor, the weapons, it's just so bonkers crazy
I
that
love their
they
armor though. That
yeah,
I
I
still
love it
prefer.
too.
I still prefer my Royal Guards, but I do remember like because each of them have a different look. I remember I tried to collect every single Black Series to collect every single one of them, and I think I succeeded. They're somewhere in a box, but I used to have all of them displayed around Snoke
Wow.
until The Rise of Skywalker came out, and then Snoke got retired.
For me, what I was trying to say is that like I have zero problem with this. I think the Praetorian Guard is designed in a way that it should. It is like we should not forget this. We said this before. Star Wars is a space opera, and those characters are like one of the things that makes it a space opera. Like the uh, complete bonkers design of them, the way they carry themselves, their fight style, and everything. So I have no complaints about that. It's just that it looks weird, but we should always think like some things are made in that way to give a certain feeling.
So I'll put it this way: it looked weird and cheesy, but I still liked it.
Exactly. Same.
But I'm not a hater. Like I'm gonna say, like Disney Star Wars is not as bad as the what fans make it be or make it seem to be.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like this is what I told, and I've said this in previous podcasts, not with you guys, but before you guys joined on. One of my biggest things, like when I was talking about the prequels and stuff, and people were talking about like Disney taking over Star Wars, and what I've always said is there's going to be a lot of Star Wars with Disney. They're not going to stop. They're slowing down like they're doing with Marvel now because they're learning. But it's also the point. It's like as fans, we all have our own ideas. There's going to be hits and misses. We're not going to love everything Disney puts out, and we're not going to hate everything that Disney puts out. But I feel fans want to hate everything just because that's just how the internet is. Like, not a big fan of the sequels. I did enjoy them. I'll watch them again, not as frequent as the other 6 movies, or Rogue One, or Solo. Love Solo. But I'm trying to think of like the things that I really detest from Disney is probably the show Resistance, which we'll probably never do a podcast on. Because that show was. I'm not going to get started on it, but
we don't talk about it.
It served no purpose.
Yeah.
And like the Clone Wars served a purpose to the prequels and made the prequels better. I think Mando,
Yeah.
Ahsoka, Thrawn, even the Bad Batch has its moments to add more story to make the sequels better. So, yes, these Praetorian Guards coming back and being cheesy and they're reusing like similar emotions and stuff. I'm not a hater. I still think they look really cool. So, just to reiterate, I don't hate it. It was just to me, it just looked weird. But the rest of the episode was really cool and everything moved smoothly, especially when Bo-Katan comes in and fights Moff Gideon. And
Yeah.
I thought that was a very necessary matchup that I would have been sad if we didn't get it, because from what we know, they met previously. He beat her and took the Darksaber. And so this is the rematch that they needed. But RIP Darksaber and RIP Bo-Katan's hand.
So, I have very mixed feelings about the Darksaber's demise. One
Me too.
is visually, that thing was insane. It was so beautiful. It was so unique. I loved seeing it. I loved the way that it was wielded so much more differently. Like it was not like a lightsaber, but it was basically katana of some kind, but not. It was just beautiful. Everything about Darksaber I really loved. But
Because it's unique.
to see, yeah, exactly. But I mean, okay, the Darth Maul unique, Kylo's unique, but
Crossblade.
nothing was as beautiful as the Darksaber, in my
Because we don't
opinion.
have any other saber that's black.
Yeah.
Like every other color is either blue, red, purple, or green, or maybe like a cyan.
Yeah.
Or a blood orange, now that we have Ahsoka.
Yellow. Like
Yellow, yeah.
full on yellow.
Have we seen yellow in live action? Or Clone Wars?
Rays?
Oh, yeah, Rey. That's right, Rey. Yeah, that's right.
This is why I'm going to defend the sequels.
So, what my tangent was about was that I will miss the visual of the Darksaber, definitely. I will miss seeing it. But I like the fact that what represents the leadership of Mandalore is not a blade anymore. I really like that twist in the story that Mandalore has a leader now. That leader is going to change in some way when the time comes, but it is not who wins a blade anymore because Mandalore, the people of Mandalore, is so much greater than the sum of one fight. And I think the growth of the people of Mandalore, especially with Children of the Watch, then Night Owls, and them coming together, them realizing that for them to survive, for them to thrive, they have to be more accepting of each other and leave their militaristic side, even though keeping it, keep making it a bit less aggressive than it used to be is going to be for the greater good of the people of Mandalore. So I am actually happy that that era of Mandalore is over and it's something different now. So I will miss the saber, but I am happy that it is gone. Oh, that hurt to say.
The destruction of the saber, all I gotta say is Satine Kryze lives in the hearts of the Mandalorians now, because now I know you've been wanting a reference to Satine, and I think maybe the ideals that are being brought by this, because they're becoming a different people. Like you said, less aggressive. They're still a warrior race, but they're not as they were before. And I think a lot of Satine's ideals, Bo is going to implement into the future of Mandalore without having to destroy the Children of the Watch. So Satine lives in Bo-Katan, and Bo-Katan to bring it. And I just had to throw Satine out there, and just because we needed it.
Yeah, the moment you said it, I was like, does he know something that I don't know?
No, it's just a little tie-in that I'm throwing in just because I felt it was necessary. Because I do see that they are becoming more of a people rather than a warrior race. But you can't And I think that's the whole thing with like the Clone Wars is like with Satine, she wanted a complete diplomatic society. And then you have Death Watch that just wanted to remain a warrior race and stay strong. But you need both of them to really become the strong.
I
Because
think
that's
Yeah.
one thing that I loved about Bo-Katan showing up, because she kind of represents that. And then when she's talking to Moff Gideon, she says, "I'm not alone." The man, because Moff Gideon was talking about, I forget, I put it in my notes. Let me see what I said. Because I know she said, oh yeah, she said Mandalorians are stronger together. And I said that Din Djarin being there, it's like, yeah, she was by herself, but he was about to, after he broke the Darksaber and crushed her hand, he was like, okay, it's over for you. So like, well, yeah, you're right, but the one thing you're failing is we're stronger together. And then all of a sudden Mando comes out and you get this cool, another Captain America scene, Civil War between like Mando and Bo going against Moff Gideon, which reminded me of Bucky and Captain America versus Iron Man.
I'm
And so I
glad
see a lot of those.
I'm glad that I wasn't the only one to get that reference either.
Oh no, I'm nerdy enough. You know me, bro.
That is true.
But I mean, and I actually just watched Civil War last week, so it's very prevalent in my mind. But I liked that they did that because it shows that she doesn't see herself superior, and the Darksaber was kind of that representation of it. And once the Darksaber is broken, she's now realizing, I don't need the saber because we are a stronger people together. And then we got a really cool fight scene between her, Mando, and Moff Gideon.
Yeah. Sorry, I think Satine's biggest mistake was that she was trying to completely deny the roots of the Mandalorian people, and Bo was trying to hold
Can't
on
deny
to
culture.
them by any means necessary. The fact that at least one of them managed to survive all of this and find the middle ground is, I think, it's beautiful to see.
So it's not about the high ground or the low ground. It's the middle ground.
Wow.
I'm kidding.
That's standing ovation.
Sorry, continue.
I'm done.
I can't really add anything else to that. What you guys have just said is exactly how I feel about it as well. It's the next progression in the Mandalorians as people, and again, I've got to completely agree with you both that is a necessity now. They've seen the Civil War, they've seen the Galactic Civil War. They've seen enough violence, and now is the time to find the balance between knowing when to fight and knowing how to survive. And you don't need a blade to do that. You just need a strong enough leader, which is showing now that we have. Plus the Aragorn references.
Which finally happened, by the way, and we talk about the whole balance, and I know I'm skipping the whole Sir Grogu and fire thing, which I want to talk about in a minute, but just because we're on the topic, like the whole uniting of their people, we see that when Bo-Katan is reigniting the Forge, you look at the whole crowd. You have the Children of the Watch, because they have their helmets on. Then you also see who belongs on actual Mandalore because they don't have their helmets on. And so you see the uniting of the people and a mutual respect. Like, I think that's one thing that is a good message, because all of them have different beliefs, but nobody's fighting each other over it. may have started that way, but they've come to accept it. And it's cool because we're seeing a whole culture full of different ideas, but they're becoming one because of it.
Yeah. Just yeah, basically.
I see your guys' brains ticking. Like, I see you guys thinking.
I'm trying to think of a way that I can, again, I can add to that, but I just can't, because again, you've nailed it.
Appreciate it. But to jump back from the topic then, when the ship crashes down and Axe steals Bo's and Mando's kill, I love the callback to Rebels with Sir Grogu using the Force to block the fire. And it's really sad because with Kanan,
He died.
there's no way out of it because he was standing on a fuel tank.
Yeah.
So he was blocking the fire from blowing up that until they left, and he used the Force push. And once they were far enough away to at a safe distance. Sorry, words. Once they were at a safe distance, is when he let go of the Force and knew where he was going to go. This instance, they're not really on a fuel tank, so Grogu and them, he was able to save them and survive. And noticing how stronger Grogu got, Sir Grogu, sorry, he fell backwards and sat down, but he didn't fall asleep this time like he did first season. So he is getting a little bit stronger, and it's not taking as much of a toll on him anymore. He's getting stronger.
Yeah. I mean, I just loved how that scene played out. He and the, like you say, the parallels between Kanan and Grogu now. Obviously, Kanan was blind, but he got his sight back, which I love that moment.
Oh, dude. I can't wait till we start talking Rebels.
Oh, I know.
I'm so excited for Rebels. More than Clone Wars, sadly.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting one. And, to get that parallel of, all right, we've seen this before where you've got a main character now using the Force against a fireball type thing. In this instance, it's a giant spaceship crashing down. It did feel like, is this going to work? Are they going to survive? What's going to happen? And you've got
plot armor, but also character growth.
Yeah, you've got little Sir Grogu that we have seen fall down after using the Force before, really coming into his own element now.
I do have to say this because I thought it was really funny. Before Grogu took on the fire, Bo-Katan ducked around Din Djarin and Grogu, Sir Grogu, and ignited her little shield over her arm. And my first thought is like, girl, what do you think that's gonna do? Protect her arm? Okay, cool.
Yeah, like every other part of her's gone, but the arm is fine.
Grogu is just as big as
Sir
that
Grogu.
shield. I am done with this. I am through. That's it. I cannot. I will scream. Oh, no.
Anyways, continue. I'm sorry.
You know what? No, you know what? I'm doing this much worse. Baby Yoda is just as big as that shield. Meet me.
I'm editing that out and I'll put my words over her saying Sir Grogu.
I mean, you are correct. When it was more to protect Sir Grogu than it was to protect anyone else.
But it was above his head. Like, I remember the scene because I was laughing at the scene because she was standing and it was over her face, if I remember correctly. But that's what I saw, and it's a very tiny shield. Like, Sir Grogu is bigger than that little shield.
I think she was trying to protect as much of her face and Sir Grogu as possible.
Yeah, it's the breadwinner.
without, you know, it's
Kidding.
not.
I'm kidding.
I cannot. This is going
It's-
off the rails.
It's not like Captain America's shield where, you know, you could let off a grenade under it and nothing will happen. This is a tiny portable shield that is basically worth nothing in this instance.
Yeah, it's just energy.
Yeah, but you know, she's doing her instinctive thing of trying to protect of much of herself and Grogu as possible. Mando, you know, he's got a helmet on. Yes, he could get a bit singed, but it's not going to be as bad as you know, herself and Grogu.
So here's my question: how much heat does it take to make Beskar hot? So imagine all that heat coming at you. Mando takes that helmet off. He's gonna look like Anakin.
Well, I mean, thing is, like, this is a real sort of science nerdy question now, because
Yeah, that's why I brought it up. There's got to be some kind of realism to it.
But Beskar can go up against a lightsaber quite, you know, and withstand.
Which is pretty hot, yeah.
Yeah, so what you've got to ask is what's
basically plasma.
Yeah, it's like what's the base, you know, the basic temperature of an ignited lightsaber, and then you've got to compare that to what would the temperature be of an exploding starship
ship,
which
yeah,
you know, it's not even the full ship that they're getting. It's kind of like the explosion as it's coming, as you know, as it's hitting them. So it's I think maybe it would have been able to withstand it. I mean, you know, you're looking at it, and Mando's armor's been able to withstand like fire being shot right at it, because we see Moff Gideon do that.
Yeah, beginning of this episode.
Yeah, so
he literally had a flamethrower to his face.
Yeah, and was perfectly fine. That we think.
Yeah, because he hasn't taken the helmet off, so we don't know.
But you know, we can somewhat assume that he would have been fine. You know, there was no signs of discomfort or anything. You know, so I think based on that alone, I think potentially a couple of minutes tops in full Beskar armor could withstand a fireball of that magnitude.
So there is an entire subreddit on the melting point of Beskar, and from the research.
Did you just look this up, or is this from your knowledge?
Yeah, of course. No, no. I looked it up. As
Fluffy
soon as
created
you guys. Yes, I did the math. From a cursory glance, it is like around 20,000 Celsius is the melting point. I don't know what
Which
is that in Fahrenheit.
Yeah, I don't. Another Google. But I mean, it makes sense that Beskar would be able to handle that, because we literally have characters flying out into space that can handle the pressure of space. So there's got to be a level of resistance that, or not level of resistance, but like level of protection that goes through. Because in one of the comics, Vader himself, and I don't even know what Vader's armor is made out of. I'd be very interested if it is Beskar, because he actually falls into lava with a suit on and comes out completely fine.
I know. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. I don't think it's Beskar, because it's also a lot of leather, which actually that surprises me that Vader managed to walk out of lava perfectly fine, because that should have melted or, you know, caught fire again, and you know, Anakin Marshmallow.
I don't know if this is canon, but it says obsidian, plasteel, durasteel, and plastoid.
Yeah,
Plastoid, I'm assuming it's plastic.
Yeah,
But obsidian makes sense because obsidian is technically cooled lava. So I'll buy that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot of
I'll throw some
explanations
fantasy
about
into it. I mean, he also used the
Um,
force to kind of protect himself because he did like a little force bubble, but still. I think because Beskar is supposed to be like the most durable metal in the Star Wars universe. It's basically the, what do you call it? Vibranium of
Yeah.
the Star Wars universe. So I'm okay saying that they'd be fine, and I'll go with them protecting Grogu, but she didn't put it over Grogu.
Yeah, I checked the visual again. You're right, but then again, it's now that I'm thinking about it, it's a reflex.
That's what I was
He
saying
just
too, and probably just
like
more for like a visual shot.
yeah.
And I think
It's-
that's where the importance of Sir Grogu comes in is, yes, they think they're done for, but
Mhm.
Grogu is coming through and showing, hey, I'm stronger now.
Yeah.
And so it was more
I
of a
thought for a
defining
second
moment for Sir Grogu.
I thought for a second that was a very conscious move on her trying to protect Grogu, but I think she thought they were done for. All of like only Grogu at that moment knew what he could try to do. And they both Mandalorian thought they were done for.
I'm not gonna lie, if I was with them, I would have thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest, and I think that's why it's important that Grogu is there, and Grogu has had his character growth and development as far as a warrior, going through the training this season, and just developing with the Force more. Maybe his training with Luke made him a little bit more powerful to deal with this situation. So there's a lot of things that come into play here with Grogu, and I think it's like, okay, yep, we're all done for. We managed to get rid of Moff Gideon, but at least Mandalore is saved. But Grogu's like, nah, I got this. But yeah, I mean, it for me, I think it's just a very defining moment for Sir Grogu because we get to see more of his ability, and we get to see that him training with Luke actually did something, even though he left Luke because Luke gave him a stupid decision.
Yes.
Like I'm still upset
I
about
wonder if
that.
Luke ever regretted that.
We'll find out. I'm sure there's gonna be more with Luke at some point, but we'll see.
Okay. So afterwards we get the baptism of, I guess,
Which I want to make a point.
Grogu.
The season started off with Paz's son about to be baptized and got messed up by the creature, and the season ends with it, where he actually does it, which I thought was cool. So continue. I just
And
want to throw that out there.
yeah, and in the living waters of Mandalore, which is a
Yes,
huge thing.
huge thing.
That moment when our main character, who shall not be knighted
Jinjar.
anymore,
So Grogu.
Baby Yoda, took the name Din Grogu. It was beautiful. It was, again, as I said, like for me, it brought everything to full circle. We saw a completely different relationship between a master and an apprentice, and them at the end becoming more than a team, more than like they became a family, and I
Because the
love that
full
moment.
adoption
I think
came here.
exactly, and I think it was perfect. It was really well done. It was not cheesy. I think it had
No, not at all.
enough levity. It had a lot of emotion. I really loved the way that it was done.
So, Sam, you being British and royal family and stuff,
Yes.
Where do we go from here?
Yeah. Just wondering where
So-
we're going with this one.
where do we go from exactly? Where do we go from here? Sir Grogu or Din Grogu?
I mean, I would still say it's Sir Grogu and Din Grogu.
Because the royal family,
Yeah,
the family name.
yeah. Whereas like Din Grogu becomes the family name.
Oh, okay. So this is where we go from here. Fluffy's gonna love it. Sir Din Grogu.
Yes.
Speechless.
Because I'm glad this is the season finale of this one, by the way, because that would be a nightmare
Yeah.
to remember.
Sir Din Grogu.
Yeah, no,
That might
I'm
be
reverting
that
back.
might be the title of this podcast, Sir Din Grogu.
Yep.
Just saying.
Do it. Has to be done.
Yeah, I am going back to the child. Even Baby Yoda is too much.
He's evolved from that. There's so much character development for Sir Din Grogu this season.
God. Oh, sanity. Love it.
I do too. I love the stress it's giving Fluffy.
I cannot believe this. I am fully, completely sober, and this is happening.
Yeah.
However, I do think that it was a great ending to the season. So like Din is the family name of Din Djarin, and so maybe Djarin is his first name, from what I'm understanding on Mandalorian culture. So Djarin is his first name, so we can just start calling him Djarin. Din Djarin,
Yeah.
if we want to say his full name. Just like Sir Din Grogu, like we just call him Grogu for his first name, and Din is
But
the last name.
How does that work? Bo-Katan Kryze is like how our names are, but Din Djarin,
It could be
Din
different
is
between
different.
the Children of the Watch versus actual
Yeah.
Mandalorian.
Could
I'm
be.
taking it as Children of the Watch style.
Mhm.
I mean, if you look at it in a sort of real world sense, you've got more like Eastern Europeans where they've got if they're writing their surname or their full name, it's surname first, then their forename. And I kind of think it was more akin to that. Whereas like, you know, the three of us would probably write our forename first and then our surname. So, you know, that's more where I thought it would be, is that it's just another thing that's based off of real world.
Mhm. I mean, also in a lot of Asian cultures, the last name as we family name
Yes.
is first, and then it's the first name. I wonder though, when you said East European, I started thinking, could it be also one of those title-like things? Because in the East European cultures, there is also like having the father's name or mother's name, and then having a suffix at the end of it to turn it into a name. Could that be that too? That's what I'm thinking.
It could be. So for like Bo-Katan Kryze, I think Katan Kryze might be like two different family names, and Bo is her first name, and so maybe circumstances it will be that way. Because I do know, like Sam mentioned, like it's very un-American of me, but when I write my name, I'll do my last name, comma, then my first name, and Americans don't do it that way. I'm finding a lot of this stuff because a lot of my history goes back to a lot of English heritage. Like Sam could probably look this up on Google. Like there's a couple of towns with my last name in England, and so I can see it that way because like I do a lot of British or English ways, and that's one of the things I noticed is like they write their last name first, then they do comma, then they do the rest of their name. And so it could be the same thing with the Children of the Watch. Like the Children of the Watch are basically more kind of like how you said the Asian culture. It's like it's kind of, I'm trying to think of an example, especially in Japanese culture, because I love the whole idea of samurai, and I love the whole discipline and their culture stuff. But I can't think of anything right now. It's like best thing I can probably think of is Dragon Ball Z. Because like Goku is Son Goku.
Yeah.
And so it might have, and I was actually reading on IMDb, there is a lot of samurai and Japanese ties to Mandalorian season 3. So
Yeah, I was just reading that too.
so Din Djarin is probably more of a Japanese thing, more like Son Goku, like you're the son of Goku or whatever. I'm not exactly sure the actual explanation for it is, but I think it has more Japanese ties than it does European culture. There's 2 scenes that we got left, and I think we did discuss the ending already. But we got a bar scene, which we get to see Dave Filoni sitting in the background, and
Yep.
Grogu saying IG-11's face, and Mando going, "No, that's not the same. It's not the same. They look alike, but it's not the same person or same droid." And so we finally get the thing that Mando was looking at from the beginning to be able to recreate the droid that he wanted originally, who becomes the constable of this new society. And I think we already talked about how Mando was talking to Captain Teva about, it's like, oh, I got a new apprentice now, so I'm not going to be doing some dangerous missions because I'm trying to teach this kid and not put him in danger. But I know the new Republic has work, so this is my new direction that I'm going in. Technically still a
Yeah.
mercenary, but maybe not a bounty hunter anymore.
Yeah, more of a ranger than a bounty
Mhm.
hunter.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm willing to work for the new Republic so I can teach this kid some good values. Because, again, the word redefining, Mando's done a lot of bad stuff in his history. Based because he's a bounty hunter. We can only imagine what he's done. So Grogu coming into his life has given him new purpose, so he's redefining what he's going to do from here on out. And bye, Sam.
Sam's still here.
I know, I'm kidding.
Bye.
I'm back.
But it's really cool to see that the bar scene gave us a tie into IG-11, because it's like, the only thing I want is that the droid's head, because, oh, you want to, he's like, what do you need with an assassin droid? Oh, I just need the parts. And then we get to see Constable IG-11 back on Navarro, and so sad for you guys. Everybody's listening. This is Carl Weathers' last performance as this character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
this is what's good, though, because we talked about this being the finale, and like it was a really good ending for the series.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel there's anything left to give any closure to his character.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think it worked well.
It was a
Our
fitting.
timing was right.
Yeah, it was a fitting way to end it without leaving it sort of open-ended. You know,
Like, what's his face from Ahsoka?
Yeah.
I forget his name. Skull.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm terrible with names.
But I mean, just going back on the IG-11 thing, it also shows Mando's growth as a character again. Because when we first see him going against IG-11, it was like there was full-on hatred because it was a droid, and now, you know, he's wanting to get parts to build him again. You know, I just love the fact that there was, again, that sort of call
Character
back.
development.
Yeah, the call back to the beginning to where we are now, and the growth that we've seen within Mando.
Yeah, it's basically we see, I mean, we get more or less a lot of character development within the third season. We, of course, have it on the first one and the second one, but I feel like bit by bit, like the Mandalorian armor is being put together for him. His character is also going through the exact same thing. And once he is actually with a lot of different Mandalorian and he is immersed in the culture much more than he used to be, we see a lot more character development there coming together as well. And I feel in terms of Carl Weathers, I mean, it's Yeah. I hope we just somehow do not go back to Navarro and then get some type of explanation, whatever. I don't know. I hope they don't go back there.
Pull a Cara Dune.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah. So I know that's where they were supposed to settle, but I don't know. What I am very curious about is, of course, I know that there's going to be a Mandalorian season 4. There's going to be the Mandalorian and the
And
Child
Sir Din
movie.
Grogu.
Not happening. I want to know at this point but we are in real life post-sequel timeline. I want to know where the child is. I want to know what he's doing. Is he the ruler of Mandalore? If he is some type of helping person for force sensitive individuals, where did his journey take him? That's a question I really want an answer for as quickly as possible. The story can build up to there at some point, but I want to know.
Lizzo. That's where he is.
Yeah, he went back to see Lizzo. Sir Din Grogu needed to see Lizzo.
Yeah.
Sam, you're officially the worst.
I mean,
You
I'll
don't care.
we are getting another season and we are getting a movie. So I'm sure we'll get to see where these characters go. And I don't think Leader Mandalore is the direction that Sir Din Grogu is going to be headed in, because I think that's Bo-Katan's story.
Yeah, but I was talking like it post sequel, so we know that
Oh, gotcha.
Bo-Katan's
Like down the line.
life, yeah, Bo-Katan's life is going to be significant.
She's going to die at some point.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe she remarries and restarts the Mandalorian royal family, if they decide to do the whole royal thing, or if it's a democratic situation to where they're voted in.
Oh,
Never
that
know.
would be such a good episode of a podcast.
It would be, because I know a
Mandalore.
lot of people hated the prequels because of the politics. Yet it's a big part of the Star Wars universe, and it's an actual question we would probably want to know. Is like, are they going to keep with the royal family or go on a democratic thing and just vote? Which
Yep.
could be a good thing or a bad thing for the future Mandalore. We'll see. Because we see how America is with our democratic. We got terrible people being voted in. But that's another topic for another discussion. But my next question is, I know the Darksaber was destroyed, and I know you were sad that this Darksaber was destroyed. But we see The Last Jedi, Anakin's lightsaber got destroyed, but the crystal remained. So just because the Darksaber was destroyed doesn't mean the Black Crystal doesn't still exist. So, do you think Sir Din Grogu uses that crystal to build a new lightsaber, or do you think Bo-Katan Kryze uses that crystal to rebuild the Darksaber,
So
to redefine Mandalore?
I mean, very, very quickly on that, we're talking of two different ways of destruction. We've got Anakin's lightsaber was pulled in half.
Yeah.
And you can see in Rise of Skywalker where it's been banded back together. The Darksaber
Was it banded back together, or they just ignore that it was destroyed?
No, I think there's an extra band around it on the original prop.
I need to Google that, because that's one of my biggest questions, because I felt like J.J. Abrams just ignored that whole scene.
No, I'm certain that it, in certain parts, you can see where it has been banded together.
Okay, I'm gonna look it up so I can see it, but continue on your thought.
So and obviously we're comparing Anakin's lightsaber to something that was crushed. I think if the Dark Crystal survived that crushing, I don't I think maybe it could be worn as a pendant, but I don't think Bo-Katan would rebuild a Darksaber.
I'd be okay with it being a pendant because I've built lightsabers in real life, and there's different places you can put the chassis for the crystal. So I'm very curious where it's at in the Darksaber.
For me, I am thinking, I mean, it got destroyed in the fight with Moff Gideon, but then an entire spaceship fell on it.
There is that.
So there may not be a crystal anymore.
I didn't think about that. She would have dropped it because she couldn't hold it. So that is also a thought.
I don't think it was within that force shield that
it wasn't.
the child
Definitely
created.
Not.
Yeah, because we see her dropping the Darksaber anyway. So the crushed remains of it. So I think, if it wasn't destroyed in the fireball, it would have just been left and lost to the depths of Mandalore, forever. And I'm perfectly fine with that because, it's not like Anakin's lightsaber that was ripped in half. This was full on crushed and then, as Fluffy just said, burnt up in a fireball.
I think the fact that there will be no remainder, like no piece of it left, is also a good thing.
Yeah.
I think it's symbolic.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It just went up in flames.
And Sam, you are correct. I'm looking at the Red Skywalker blade, and it is very different. There is a leather wrist strap that's around the weld marks. That's another topic or another issue for discussion because you're on Snoke ship, which is about to blow up, and then you destroy the saber, but you got your enemy there, but you have enough time to go pick up the pieces to re-weld it.
Yeah, I know that I'm going to be advocating that the sequels are good, but there are plot holes in them.
I'm so excited to hear this.
Nothing but plot holes.
So yeah, overall, really good finale of this season. And I would have been satisfied if this was a series finale, considering Mando got his little home and Grogu seems very happy where he's at. But I'm excited for the future of Mandalorian, Din Djarin, Sir Din Grogu. I know you're going to laugh at me, but it's fun. We like to be ridiculous here. But I really think Moff Gideon is in the past, and we're going to be moving on to the next stage of the Mandoverse. So I'm really curious to see where the movie's going, and I'm really curious of where season 4 is going to go. And by the end of this episode, we're going to be discussing the Acolyte. I know season 3 came out a year or 2 years ago, but we're just not getting to it. But next week, we will be discussing the Acolyte, which, low-key, I'm very excited about. I've seen 2 minutes of it, and I was impressed with 2 minutes I saw. So I have very high expectations. So come back and we will definitely be discussing it because it's going to be fun. But before we go, remember, check the link in the description down below. We have our merch with entertainmentearth.com, where we got tons of cool Black Series and other cool like Star Wars collectibles. And if you like t-shirts, we designed a few, so check our Teespring. And then please check out our Instagram and our Discord because we have some really cool, fun communities there that I think you guys would be great with and that you guys can really connect with other Star Wars fans. So this is the way.
This is the way.
Perfect. There we go.